And welcome to the Smug Awards, or episode 104 of Understanding Photography with Kim Ayres. As you can see, it's a black tie occasion, so I hope you're all dressed up. Hi, welcome to Understanding Photography with Kim Ayres, the second year anniversary edition. Who knew it would ever last this long? When I started out, it was going to be a 12-week experiment. And here we are, 2 years and 104 episodes later. So today then is a special Smug Awards edition. I thought to celebrate the fact that we'd actually lasted this long. And the reality is that these podcasts wouldn't exist without you, the viewer. Now, I know there's always that kind of thing where people tend to say these kind of things. Oh, I couldn't do it without my fans. But there is a genuine side to this. I wouldn't just sit here on my own talking into the camera if there was nobody to actually listen and nobody to actually respond. The fact that you contribute to photos each week, whether it's putting it into the challenge or putting it in for critique, and particularly you, yes, you who are watching right now, and especially you who are watching this live right now, it's incredibly important. Leave me a comment, let me know you're here, let me know what the weather's like. The feedback that I get, especially the live feedback and people chatting, that allows me to know that I am connecting to people out there, is a huge part of the whole podcast thing and why it's carried on going so long. So incredibly important that you, and yes, I'm looking right at you, don't think I'm talking to anybody else, it is you that I'm most pleased that you turned up, and thank you. Greatly appreciated. Right, that was a little taster there. I pressed the wrong one, so you got to see what the Smug Awards looks like instead of the Kim Ayres thing. Oh, what's that?
Well, I think you deserve the most smug of
all. Oh, that's so lovely. Maggie has just come in with... How superb is that? Well, I suppose I better make a wish. Thank you, Maggie. That's really lovely. So, here we go. I actually have an anniversary cake. Wow, how fantastic. Right, okay. I can see there's comments in here already. Let me, yeah, that's thrown me a little bit. Right, let me see some of the comments here. What have we got? So Robert says, howdy all from Texas. Diane says, hi from a cold but sunny Warwickshire. JG, hi from the Cotswolds. JG, is that Mel? I think that's Mel. Welcome. Really glad you could make it along. If it's not Mel, let me know. Managed to join for today. Brilliant. Rosemary says, good morning from a wet and chilly Washington State. Pat's here, sunshine in Somerset, and my tiara is sending diamonds spinning around the room. Happy Smugs Day. Brilliant, Pat. So glad. I can just picture you there in your tiara and all the light reflecting off it. Superb. Maggie says, wishing everyone basketfuls of smugness today. May Britt is back, says, good afternoon, everyone from Denmark. Sun is shining, but it's quite windy. Excellent. So glad you came back. April says, hello, everyone from sunny Long Island, New York. Roy says, message retracted. Oh, well, hopefully you put another one in soon. Meg says, hello, everyone. Congratulations to 104 episodes. That is a huge achievement. Oh, thank you, Meg. That's greatly appreciated. Roy is back. Welcome all from Yorkshire. Sunny and cold today. And then, looks like Diane, Pat and Roy and April all say, all agree with Meg there. April says, Rosemary says, the black tie. Love that. Gary says, I hope nobody's going to get slapped during these awards. No, I can guarantee you it will be a much less violent affair, and Will Smith has not been invited. April says, love the balloons. Excellent. Well, of course, I mean, you have to have some kind of recognition of the celebration. Last year, if anybody was around for the 1 year anniversary, I stuck up balloons, but to be honest, it was an 8-pack of balloons. So I used 4 of them last year. I've just used up the 4. If we get to another year, I'll just have to go out and buy some more balloons. What else have we got? Rosemary, that looks great. April says, looks yummy. May says, how sweet of you, Maggie. Viji's here, says, good evening, everyone. Love from Chennai. Robert says, hope you're going to share that cake with everyone. Well, on a virtual level, yeah, absolutely, if you would like to take a bite. And JG says, yes, it is Mel. Excellent. M. Souza says, hello, I'm new from Arizona. So glad you could make it along. Do I call you M. Souza, or do you have another name that I can use? Oh, Peter's here from saying hello, all from Annan. Superb. Well, yes. So, yes, for those of you who are new, or those of you whose first one was only last week, this is a slightly different podcast to the usual kind. Generally speaking, with the podcasts, I start with where I talk about a particular photo shoot, or we talk about a particular compositional, photographic editing technique, and then we do a kind of critique section, or sometimes we do challenges. I set a challenge, everybody sends me images, and then we look through the photos and we kind of inspire each other with the idea of how we all reacted to the theme of the challenge. Today, though, specifically because it is the 2-year anniversary, I decided to do something different. As I mentioned at the beginning, there's the idea here of that, you know, the podcast wouldn't happen without you, the viewer, the audience, the contributors. So what I wanted to do was actually just kind of, as a little bit of fun and a bit of a thank you, was to hand out some Smug Awards. So again, for those of you who are new here, quite often when we do the challenges, I hand out Smug points for those who've done something where I just think, yeah, that's really nice, well done. So what I've decided to do this time is, well, first of all, I mean, I do have to say a huge thank you to, first and foremost, I think the biggest Smug Award of the lot has to go to my wife, Maggie. Without Maggie, she wouldn't, these podcasts certainly wouldn't exist. Every week she's here, she's checking in. Those of you who know when things have gone wrong, like the screen's frozen or my voice has suddenly become high-pitched because settings changes, she's the one who's come through and told me. And of course, off-screen, you know, the huge amount of support I get from Maggie. So without a doubt, thank you, my love. I hugely appreciate all the help and support you've given me over the last couple of years. And a second Smug Award actually has to go to my daughter Meg, who is also watching. So Meg really is essentially my #1 fan. Meg doesn't have a Facebook account, so for the first sort of year and a half, I was doing this on Facebook Live, and then a little over 6 months ago, I moved these straight onto YouTube. And Meg used to always watch the recordings, but since we turned to YouTube, she always sits and watches live. She contributes with comments, and always gives me the biggest, the most warmest of hugs before and after. So yeah, many thanks to Meg. So we've got a few more comments here. So where are we? Oh, April says welcome. She loves. This is welcome to M. Souza. It says love Arizona. Oh, M. Souza says Michelle. Right, I will try and remember that one. It's Musa on Photo Crowd. Right, brilliant. Yes. Max says good afternoon, people. Michelle. Rosemary also says welcome. Michelle grew up in Wickenburg and Tucson. How are things? How things have grown in Arizona. So we got a few different welcomes to Michelle from Peter and Rosemary and April. Rosemary says, yay Maggie, you're such a great support. April also says, yay Maggie. Diane says, well done Maggie. Maggie says, thank you Mr. Podcaster. Must make you Mrs. Podcaster. And yay Megs, and congrats Meg, and Meg and Maggie should get cake. Yeah, I'll share it with them. Meg says, oh, Rosemary also says, yay Meg, love your fabulous positive comments. You're definitely your dad's #1 fan. Brilliant. Okay. Oh, and Pat says it is obvious that Kim has got 2 stalwart supports in Maggie and Meg. We all need them. This is very true. Right. Okay. So I mean, one of the things I have to say that I absolutely love about these podcasts, and I love about you, who tune in on these podcasts, is the sheer kind of geographical vastness. One of the things I think so many of us were aware of when lockdown happened was, if this had happened 10 years, 20 years before, how we quite would have coped without the internet being the support and the way that it is. And what I love about is the idea that here I am just sitting in my study, and with the aid of a little plastic webcam and a computer and a hookup to the internet, I'm reaching people from all over the world. And it's not just me, it's the fact that you comment with each other. We have a Facebook group also called Understanding Photography with Kim Ayres. And those who are on the Facebook who come and join in that. And so the chat is not just a one-way me meeting people from all over the world. Each of you from all over the world are meeting other people from all over the world. And I see quite a few of you have also hooked up and become friends on Facebook and share comments and give supportive comments to each other as well. And that's absolutely wonderful. Now what we've done is we've created a community. That geographical, I was trying to work out roughly where everybody is. I mean, from here in Castle Douglas in Scotland, the most northerly that I've got are, I think, Inga and Helga are both from Norway, but I'm not sure which one is further north. Most easterly, I think, has got to be Rosemarie, who is in Washington State. So, yeah, I think. Inga and Helga don't seem to be here, but Rosemary is. So have a Smug Award for just being and also I think the furthest away in terms of time zones. You're kind of like 8 hours behind where we are now. Then we have, who else have we got? Oh yeah, so southerly, the most southerly we have is Jackie in South Africa. So have a Smug Award for being the most south from here, which I think is roughly about sort of 6,000 miles away to Jackie. And most westerly from here is Viji in India. So Viji is roughly, I think I worked out about just between 5,000 and 5,500 miles from here as well. So Smug Award for you, Viji. Having said that, this is going on the fact that of, if you like, the regulars. We have had Katie in a couple of times, and I know Katie occasionally watches on Catch Up as well, from Australia, and at that point she pretty much trumps everybody, which is because where she is 9 hours forward from here, 9,500 miles away in Queensland, Australia. So just in case you tune in, have a Smug Award, Katie. So I wonder how annoying all these Smug Awards are going to be before we get to the end of it. Okay, let's take a look at a few more comments here. Viji's also saying welcome to Michelle. Pat, oh yeah, right, where are we? Oh, Max says, don't know about the rest of the invited guests on here, but has anyone else got wine on their table? Just asking for a friend. I expect everybody's stocked up with wine and chocolates and coffee and champagne and sparkling water, especially for those who have to drive home afterwards. Oh, Maggie says, my tea is wine coloured. And Roy says, I have red. April says, go Jackie, go Viji. Oh, Max says, I have nothing. We'll see if any turn up. Okay. Oh, and Diane says, tonic water for me. Cool. Right. Okay. So next what I want to do is essentially I want to celebrate here. I can only really think of calling you pretty much the crew. And these are the ones who turn up pretty much every single week. There are some of you who just turn up week in, week out, and the only time you don't is if some kind of really big emergency turns up. And so in celebration of you, the core who turn up pretty much without doubt, I want to give you Smug Awards. So Smug Award to Pat for absolutely, turning up every week. And then of course Viji in Chennai, another, just every week. And of course, to Rosemary in Washington State. And Smug Awards, of course, to April in Long Island, New York. Smug Awards have to go to Robert and Anne in Texas. And of course to Jackie in South Africa, although having said that, I did get a message from Jackie this morning saying that she couldn't make it along because she's committed to a photo shoot. But having said that, Jackie does usually turn up here every week, so as I said, in terms of the emergency. So yay, another for Jackie. Then Diane. Diane has been turning up pretty much. I can't think of a time when you haven't turned up over the last several months, Diane. So one for you too. Then Karen, the Bevs, has been really good at turning up. Having said that, I haven't seen her yet, but hopefully if she watches the catch-up, I think she definitely deserves a Smug Award too. And then, of course, Stacey in Hatboro, Pennsylvania. Once again, no sign of Stacey just yet. She does sometimes come in a little bit late, but a stalwart for, you know, one of the early adopters who sort of joined us pretty early on and has tended to be here almost every week since. And John from Ohio is another regular who's here most of the time. And Roy in Yorkshire, absolutely wonderful. Oh, you know, so as the kind of the absolute, you know, the ones who turn up every week without fail, well, unless it does happen to be an absolute emergency. I can't express to you just how important it is, and how important it is to me that you do. It makes such a huge difference. So congratulations to all of you, and I hope you enjoyed your brief Smug Awards. So, okay, let's take a quick look. Meg says, thanks for your kind words, everyone. And April says, yay, Pat. Viji says, thanks, Kim and folks. April says, love my rose. Thank you. Rosemary says, buckets of smugs to all the regulars. It's so much fun getting to know you all. Diane says, thank you. Pat says, thank you, Kim. I shall try not to let it go to my head. April says, congrats to all. Now, secondly, then, there's another set of Smug Awards that I want to go out. And that's to essentially the kind of the pop in less regularly, but still very much make your presence felt. I'm aware that it doesn't always fit everybody's timetable, and there are some people who would definitely like to sort of be here a bit more, but whether it's Sunday afternoons or just, you know, other things kind of get in the way. There are some who do turn up, you know, maybe once or twice a month, or maybe even actually have more of a presence in Facebook. They click like, they enter the things, but don't always manage to watch it live. Certainly there's a lot more I know do watch the catch-up. They're never going to really get a chance to watch it live. But in terms of those who sort of turn up live, join in when they can, the sort of runners-up, I will run through, and then I'll give you all one big Smug Award at the end. But I particularly want to make mention of Jim in Dumfries, Brian in Dumfries, Peter in Annan, who I know is here today, Nuria, Mac, of course, you've turned up here today, Helga from Norway, Ben from Edinburgh, Sophie, Sandra, Inga, Benetito, Rosie, Megan, Alex and Gary, and I think I saw Gary in there as well. So Smug Awards to all of you for keeping it going, for not giving up on me. You know, I know you can't make it here every week, but it's absolutely wonderful when you do. Right, okay, and of course what I'm going to do here is an extra Smug Award for absolutely each of you who has turned up live today. And you know, we have our regulars, but we've also got Mel, we've got Michelle, we've got May, and you know, so we've got new people here today, as well as some of the regulars and the semi-regulars. So yeah, Smug Award for each of you, just for being here, not just for being here, but absolutely for being here today. I can't remember. Did I already mention that one? Doesn't matter. Have another Smug Award anyway. Right. Then for what I want to do now is a couple more. Oh yeah, a couple of people saying congratulations to all. Brilliant. Okay, next what I want to do is I've got some special Smug Awards that I just want to hand out because there are, you know, the support is always hugely welcome. And there are some people who sort of occasionally, for different reasons, have kind of gone a little bit above and beyond, if you like, in certain areas. And so some special awards here. First of all, so the first award that I really want to give here is to Pat. And the reality is, for those of you who don't know, you all know Pat. Pat turns up from Somerset and always gives us, whether it's cold or sunny, wet, pretty much unless there is an emergency or she's got family visiting that day, Pat arrives. The thing that most of you might not know about Pat is not a photographer. Pat doesn't go out and take the photos, but Pat turns up, supports, joins in all the time. And when I sort of set up the podcast, I just assumed that everybody who turned up would naturally be a full-on photographer. But along with my wife Maggie and Meg both occasionally take photos, but they're not photographers in that way. Neither Pat isn't either. But I greatly appreciate. Pat is an old friend, though. We've known each other for at least 15 years, possibly 16 years. We met blogging, in fact. So Smug Award to Pat. I'll just do that one again. Next up, I want to mention Viji, because as most of you know, Viji has been an absolute pillar of these podcasts. I think she joined us around episode 3 or something like that, and has been to more or less everyone since. Has put in more images than anybody else for critique, I think. And I would also say it's probably, is one where we really notice the advancing and growth of Viji's photography. In a little while after this section, I'm just going to sort of commend a few photos that I like, and some of you won't be surprised to know that Viji's got a photo in there as well. And the thing with Viji is right from the start, she was turning up. We talk a lot together away from the podcasts, but she's given me huge amounts of very valuable feedback. But it's been an absolute joy to see her photography grow and develop, and she's one of the most creative photographers we have in the group, and it's wonderful. So, absolutely, Viji has to have a major Smug Award. Right, a couple more comments. What have we got here? Yes, Maggie saying, Pat, you are a wonderful support. Rosemary says, Pat, that's so great. I'd put up Max emoji too if I could find it. Oh, yeah, Max found a little trophy emoji. Oh, that's pretty cool. Pat says, thanks, Kim. Viji says, I absolutely love Pat's insightful comments. And Max actually now put up a bottle of champagne as well. You really do have access to the emojis that other people can't reach. And he said about time. I guess that must be the mentioning you, Mac, for a Smug Award. Maggie says, hooray, amazing Viji. Rosemary says, yes, Viji, I was going to nominate you for the amount of growth that I've seen in your images. Kudos to you. And Viji says, yes, from the 3rd week. April also says, very creative Viji. Diane says, well done, Pat and Viji. And Viji says, thank you. Excellent. Right, okay, so... and the next award I want to give is to Robert. Robert in Texas, who is the second most prolific in terms of really putting images in, looking for the feedback. Again, we've chatted a couple of times away from this, and emails go back and forth and messages. Robert's been a huge support for the podcasts. And I'm always amazed that, whether he's in Texas or whether he's trotting off, his job takes him around the place a lot. But if he can at all, he makes sure he turns up, he puts something in, he asks for the feedback and then acts on the feedback. And these two are two quite different things. There are people who sometimes, I've known people who ask for feedback, you give them the feedback and then it's like nothing was ever said. But yeah. I really huge kudos and respect to Robert. So, Smug Award to you. Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. A couple more well-deserved VGs, and then congratulations to Robert and April and Maggie and Anne. I am glad you could make it along again. And Diane also. Awesome. Robert. Cool. Okay. So next one I want to mention is Alex. Now, Alex is one of those who falls into the occasionally turns up. I know he tends to watch them much more afterwards, and I've periodically had comments from Alex that have appeared in the comments section of the actual YouTube video. And the thing about Alex is, whilst he's not able to make the live ones very often, he is the only one I know who was there in the very, very first podcast. If you go right back to podcast number 1, Alex actually put an image in for that. So for the full 2 years, Alex is essentially the longest running viewer. So for that alone, if nothing else, but on top of that, he always puts in some interesting photos. So Smug Award to Alex. Right. Next up, I want to mention Ben. Quite simply, Ben is Ben. Well, we know Ben is just the most incredible. Well, he's an engineer, really. Is it? We've seen some of the photos we've seen from Ben where the setups that he's gone to, and he comes at it with an engineer's mind, and he comes at it and he really pushes and explores. And what I love about Ben is a master. He teaches at Glasgow School of Art, I think, in design engineering, is it? Or we might have got that one slightly wrong, but you can let me know. But I met Ben when we were both giving a talk on light at Maxwell Festival about 2 years ago, just before lockdown. And the great thing about Ben is when he first joined us during the podcast, he said the only thing he'd ever done with a camera was essentially use it to photograph setups. So if he's creating a display, giving a talk, or wanting to do something, he'd photograph it for the record. But coming along to the podcast, he really started thinking about using photography as a kind of creative art form. And then he really has. When we set a challenge and Ben's gone for the challenge, he's probably been one of the most inventive people for sort of trying to come at it from a particular angle. So so absolutely, Ben has to have a Smug Award. Right, a couple more comments here. We've got a few more hats off to Robert and what have you. And Robert says, "Thank you. I owe most of my photography improvements to Kim and this podcast community." Well, you've been going out there doing the photography, Robert. Rosemary says, "Hooray, Ben. 2 years of support is highly commendable." April says, "Yes, I remember Ben's amazing photo with the face." Meg says, Meg has found coffee and cake emojis. I put a cup of coffee and a piece of podcast cake emojis. Brilliant. Yes, podcast cake. This is really, I just want to bite into that. If I bite into that, though, while I'm talking, I'm just going to end up spraying cake all over I think I pretty much did that last year. All right. Rosemary saying, "Oops, Alex, Kim had moved on to bed." Right. Okay. So yes, the 2 years achievement from Alex. Cool. Right. Okay. Next up then, I want to, we definitely have to have one for Rosemary, because Rosemary is, quite apart from being the furthest away, which means also Rosemary's getting up at, 7 o'clock in the morning these podcasts start for you? Seriously impressed. I mean, if these podcasts started at 7 o'clock for me, I wouldn't be here. I don't function at that time of the day. But one of the things I really love about Rosemary is, now Rosemary's not in the Facebook group, but she does email me the pictures. And when she emails me the pictures, she writes a goodly amount and gives me a lot of thoughts and insights into what it is she's looking for. Rosemary's also given me some fantastic feedback before now on the podcasts and on some of the things we said. And what I also love is Rosemary always asks amazing questions. She's brilliant for getting me to really start thinking, okay, how am I going to think about this? How am I going to answer this? And there's been more than one occasion when the whole podcast theme that I've dealt with has actually come out of a question that Rosemary asked me. And I've thought, that's such a good question. That's such an interesting question that, I can't just answer you on that. This is something we all need to have a think about as part of the Understanding Photography community. So, with that in mind, a special Smug Award to you, Rosemary. Right, okay, and then the one more Smug Award that I want to hand out in terms of special Smug Award is to April, because April is probably, I mean, one of the warmest and most, I think, the most welcoming of everybody. Now, I know also, there's quite a few who, it's especially, it's like even here, the minute somebody turns up and says, "Hi, I'm new here," April's the first one in with saying, "and welcome" in the chat and comments. And it's so warm and so, I think it's really, we have a few, periodically we have new people turn up, and I think it's one of the hardest things. You've heard of this community, you've heard of the podcast, maybe you've watched one or two of the podcasts, but and you start to realise there are regulars. And to step into a group where there are regulars can feel very intimidating when you know you're not one of the regulars. You're never entirely sure. There's that feeling of like stepping into a room and everybody's going to turn and stare at you. And what happens if somebody gives you a snarl or a funny look? And are you going to be made to feel welcome? Are you going to feel like the outsider? And of course, here we try to be as warm and encompassing as we can. But it's all very well me turning around and saying, "and welcome," which of course is necessary, and it would be very remiss of me if I didn't. But I think the fact that some of you, I know there are others who do this as well, but I just really wanted to single out in this case that because I'm very aware that April is probably the most warming away. If everybody had a role, I know April would be sort of there right by the door, letting everybody, inviting people in, taking their coat, immediately bringing them over to somebody that they could chat to and introducing them to someone. We've got that kind of warmth. So with that in mind, special Smug Award to you, April. Right, okay, so a couple more comments then. Rosemary says, "Thanks, Kim. It's worth being here at 7 a.m. I am still impressed with that." Maggie says, "Hooray, interesting, Rosemary questions." April says, "Yay." And Rosemary says, "Oh yes, April is a true encourager." Diane says, "Gosh, that's an early start, Rosemary." Viji says, "Rosemary, cheers." Maggie says, "Hooray, lovely April." Peter says, "Well done, April." Viji says, "April with hearty." Emojis are cropping up all over the place. We're getting roses and smiles and hearts and everything, which is lovely. And Diane says, "April, presumably born in April." No guarantees on that. Actually, you'll have to tell us, April. Is it your birthday month? Right, okay. So what I want to do now then is I went through the last... Oh, born in June, April says. So you could have been called June. Who knows? Yeah, what I wanted to do now, I decided for this... I had to go back and look at some of the photos. Now, part of the thing is with understanding photography is that most photos that turn up to me are, of course, looking for critique and feedback. So most of what I'm looking for is we're looking for the what's gone wrong, what could you have done better, how could we have improved this photo, which is great because that's where the learning is. And as from next week, again, we're back to a kind of normal routine of we will have a critique section. I haven't decided quite what else we'll be doing, but we will have a critique section. So if you've got a photo you want to send in, make sure you either put it into the Understanding Photography with Kim Ayres Facebook group, or you email it to me, kim@kimayres.co.uk. And we can look through the photos and I can give you the best feedback I can. However, periodically we do challenges. And at that point, it's not so much about critique and feedback, it's about sending in your best photo. And sometimes somebody sends in a photo and it just blows me away. And I just think, wow, I would feel so smug if I'd taken that photo. I would love to have a photo like that. And on occasion, somebody's taken a photo and then in the light of how we've talked about it, have gone back and re-edited the photo and created a much better photo out of it. So with that in mind, I'm now going to... Now, this is going to get complicated because this whole Smug Awards bit coming up and trying to get photos showing and trying to get my screen back requires 3 different screens. At the moment, I've just been flipping backwards and forwards between 2. So I'm not entirely sure how well this is going to work. So what I'm going to do now then, let's see, I need to press on number 2, and then I'm going to have to remember to go 2, 6, 1. these are my keyboard shortcuts down here. So first one I want to talk about, so the first Smug Award that I want to do, and I've got a handful of images here that I want to hand out. It's basically specific commendations for. And the first one I want to show is this one by Alex. And I think, you know, like I said earlier, Alex was here, one of the first ones he did, but I love this, the light, the steam, the texture, the balance. It's just you know, this is, again, like I say, this is one of those where had I taken this photo, I know for certain I would have felt extremely chuffed and quite smug about this. So we Smug Award there for Alex. Okay, probably the easiest thing to do now is maybe if I flick to the next one. And yes, this one, I have to say, it's a very early one put in by Anne. I really wanted to we had a self-portrait challenge, which might have actually been about a year ago. And I remember Anne putting in this one. And we had a bit of a laugh about the fact that, you know, for those who don't like being in photos, the whole mask thing is, you know, it was almost a godsend, really. But there's something about this photo I just really love. The balance of it, the light. The light is just beautiful. That low evening light. You can always smell that kind of soft warmth in the air. And for a self-portrait, and generally speaking, you know, I mean, having the camera in the hand, I think, I don't know. There's just something about it. Right from the very beginning, this one always struck me. So with that in mind, we have to have a Smug Award to Anne for this one. Okay, so now I'm going to, what do? I press, no. I know what to do. No, I need to go that one and then that one. Aha, there we go. So I'm just going to quickly take a quick couple of look back at the questions again, because that's the problem. I need to look at the questions and get the screen bit. This is worse than kind of rubbing your belly and patting your head and chewing gum at the same time. Okay. Oh, Viji says if she was, her parents should have called her July or Julie. Right. Peter says, well done, Alex. April says, we're summer babies, Viji. May says, wow, wonderful photo, Alex. Rosemary says, Alex, beautiful train image. April says, I do love this photo, Alex. Diane also says something very interesting about steam trains. Yeah, it's also that notion of smoke with the steam coming up, and because the sun is behind it, the way the light cuts through it is lovely. Maggie says, hooray, Anne. Viji's also saying, epic photo, and Mel says, great shot, Alex, and then April says, beautiful hair, Anne. Anne says, thanks. Rosemary says, love the light in your image, Anne. It makes your hair look so lovely, which it appears to already be, but what a way to highlight that. And Viji says, I love this. Cool. Okay, now, so next up then, I need to, Robert's doing some applause and saying, thank you, everyone. Excellent. So, now what I'm going to do is, the next photo is, now I talked about the idea of Ben, and so, and this was one of the examples then of Ben's engineering, where we were talking about, I think this was a shadows challenge. And Ben didn't just sort of take a photo with a shadow. He took a photo with three different coloured lights, where we end up with, I think, 6 different colour shadows, which is really quite amazing. And then he sort of told us about it. In fact, he wrote a blog post about it, and if anybody's really interested, go to the Facebook group and remind me, and I'll give you a link back to it. But he's got red, blue and green lights, which in turn do magenta, yellow and cyan shadows. But then when you have 2 of the lights overlap, and you've got them slightly different angles so that they're all casting slightly different shadows, and then when the shadows overlap themselves, you then end up with extra kind of, you know, like sort of blue and red, and then the kind of green end up being in the shadows, and then where they all overlap, that's when you get the kind of black shadows. And just the idea that you sort of sat down and work out how the different kind of shadows you get, and he created this sort of nice little infinity wall piece of card. And yeah, absolutely blown away by that. And then the second photo that Ben absolutely amazed everybody with was when we did a kind of long exposure challenge. Now, okay, that one's, yeah, there we go. And what Ben did here was he created he had a piece of card with a light behind it and a slot, like a slit in it. And then as the camera, he put it on a long exposure, he moved the card down so the light was lighting up his face behind the card, and the slit, as he moved it down, the slit essentially covered brought out all the aspects of his face. But then, as he did it, he turned his head from one side to the other, so that as it goes down, the head gets built in the middle of a turn. Working out how to do all that. I mean, he did say it took him about 230 odd times, I think. But but the thing is, to work it all out, to create the setup, I mean, it's mind-blowing. I would never have thought about doing this, much less had the patience to actually try and put it through, even if I got beyond the philosophical concept of it. So without a doubt, Ben just absolutely has to have major Smug Awards for his engineering photos. Right, okay, so now I need to do that. Come back here and check the comments. So April says, very artistic guy. Maggie says, hooray, innovative Ben. Peter says, very clever for photo, and has managed to find a camera emoji. I'm seriously impressed with all these emojis that are coming up. Maggie seems to have found a sunshine emoji as well, which is rather lovely. Viji says, Ben, the science and creativity. Kudos. April says, yes, this is the face I was talking about. Rosemary says, agree, Maggie. Ben's coloured shadows is so fascinating. Haunting face applying science in a very unique way. Diane says, very unusual and creative. Roy says, looking in the mirror in the morning. Looking in the mirror the morning after. That must have been some hangover, Roy. May says, you must have had so much fun creating these photos, Ben. Robert says, brilliant techniques, Ben. And Rosemary says, oh, Roy. Cool. So, yeah, absolutely. Well done to Ben. Now, next photo up then that I want to talk about is Benetito. Now, Benetito is a kind of turns up every now and again, disappears for long periods of time, but just when you think there's no sign of him again, will suddenly turn up again. But one of the photos that I was absolutely blown away with was this one of the Andromeda Galaxy. And it was astounding. And again, somewhere, probably if you scroll back far enough in the Facebook group, he wrote out the long list of actually how he did this. He did it's sort of shot in 3 different colours, red, green, blue, 6 hours each time, stacked up, something over 6 weeks, restacked, colour blended. I mean, there was weeks worth of photography went into creating this final image. You don't just point the telescope at the stars and go click and leave it for 20 seconds. You don't get that kind of rich photo. These photos are created by stacking up several loads of elements and just getting the accuracy and having the patience. Again, in terms of photography, there's a kind of almost an engineering style. There's a level at which it's just way beyond me. I can't imagine having the patience and the skill to just keep at it until you end up with a photo like this. So in terms of photos that just impressed me way beyond, this one was certainly so Benetito, absolutely, here's a Smug Award for you. So excellent, thank you for sending for that one. Now, next one I also want to talk about is Gary. Now, Gary, another one who turns up every now and again, but is still a kind of key part of. And again, Gary's good for coming up with some kind of quirky and inventive photos. But this was just one where I have serious photo envy. I would love to take a photo of this. This was taken in a single long exposure shot, I seem to remember. He did tell us how it was done. Getting the light balance, having access to this, I think you know, it is just so beautiful. There is so much life and movement, but a kind of ethereal otherworldliness to it that, yeah. And I think Gary said that he's won various kind of competitions and what have you with this photo, and I'm absolutely not surprised. It's the kind of photo that I've absolutely fallen in love with, and one day I hope I too might be able to take a photo like that. So with that in mind, Smug Awards to Gary. Now, okay, a few more. What have we got here? Okay, Rosemary says Benetito's astro photo rivals the best I've seen. Love this one so much. April says wow, neat. Diane says just wow. Mel says beautiful shot of the Andromeda Galaxy. May says amazing astrophotography. Viji says I can hear the celestial music from here. Peter says excellent Andromeda. Mesa 31 photo. Or Messier. I don't know how you pronounce it. Must be there's a term in there I'm missing. April says, I remember Gary. Gary says, that image has won the Smithsonian competition last week, which I'm so... congratulations, Gary. Well deserved. Oh, serious amount of emojis. You know, he's got bells and congratulations and trophies and medals and applause. That's brilliant. April says, I love this one. Peter says, brilliant photo. Rosemary says, congratulations, Gary. Well deserved to win such a tremendous image. Diane says, exquisite. Mel says, wow, great shot. Maggie says, hooray for Gary. April says, congrats, I need lessons from you. Anne says, congratulations, Gary. Great image. Fiji says, oh, Gary, dreamy and haunting at the same time. May Britt says, another amazing image. Love it and congratulations. It's so well deserved. And Robert says, wow, congrats on the award. So, superb. That. Then, what else have we got? Next image. Yes. Basically, yes, there's Jackie next. I wanted to... I mean, Jackie has... over the time has put all sorts of photos in, but there are a couple that I've particularly liked. I mean, there's always the drop fruit, the drop... well, in this case, peppers into the water, the splash kind of photos. The thing is about these is I know they are extraordinarily difficult to set up and to take and to get the timing right. And of course, there's also a lot of mess usually as well. What I particularly love about this one is I remember there was a point on Photo Crowd where Jackie and I were both won a competition which was for a photography magazine, which and I won with my picture of the 7 Deadly Sins of Chocolate, which took up a nice double-page spread in the magazine. But the runner-up photo was Jackie, who did with this one. And it was kind of the point where I'd sort of known Jackie a bit. She started commenting and saying congrats when I was sort of winning any competitions. But I remember seeing this one in the magazine and then contacting her on Photo Crowd to say, oh, did you know that your picture had made it in? And that kind of started the conversation. So it's kind of how we got to know each other via Photo Crowd. So so with that one, and then another one of Jackie's, which is one she just put in last week, where we've talked doing the Wilderness Challenge. I have to say, I'm absolutely captivated by this. It sort of feels so almost kind of post-apocalyptic, but the place where the flooded valley, the dam, but then the drought came along. It's now all filled back up with water again, but while the drought was on, it had emptied down, and all these old trees and the tree stump and everything like that, it's just kind of takes me off to another world, this one does. So, Smug Awards for you, Jackie. Right. Okay. And so, excuse me. So, yes, VG says, brilliant, Jackie, extraordinary. April says, amazing photo. Rosemary says, Jackie's work is dependably amazing, no exception here. Pat says, it's total wilderness, excellent. Diane says, amazing shots. And VG also agrees that it's a kind of post-apocalyptic feel to that one. Right, okay, next up then, I want to, next photo is this one from Nicola. Which I really enjoyed. She put this one in fairly recently, I think, or a couple of challenges ago. the bit about this really, I suppose what it really comes down to is it's this bit. This bit I just love. The idea of actually seeing the trees silhouetted against the sun, because normally the sun would be just so bright that it would blot out everything else. But because of the mist, just being able to capture that, I think there's something absolutely quite astonishing about that. And it just sort of gets, again, is what this is. This is straightforward photography envy, you know. I'd love to see something like that, and if I did and I'd had my camera with me, I would be leaping out of the car like she did and taking this photo. It's the kind of photo I wish I could take. So with that in mind, Smug Awards to you, Nicola. Right, okay. Now the next one I want to talk about is this one by Robert, and what's really interesting. I mean, this one's kind of had a bit of a journey. I remember when Robert sent in the original for critique, and then came back and edited it, and re-edited it, and then he's re-edited it again, and he's put it in for competitions, and it's got commended and acknowledged and what have you. And I mean, the unusualness of the fact that this was in a snowstorm in Texas, where you don't generally get snowstorms. But he's taken this photo, and what he's really worked at it, and in the end you end up with this sort of minimalist, haunting, beautiful photo. And the other week, a few weeks ago, I said, send me your best photo, the one that you're happiest with, and Robert put this one in. It doesn't surprise me that he's happy with this one, because if we're talking again about that kind of photo envy thing, this is the kind of photo I would feel absolutely proud to have as mine. The only thing is I think you've just got a little bit too much gap at the top, and I would probably crop it like that. But that aside, I love this photo, Robert. So absolutely, have a Smug Award. Right, yes, that's what I was looking for. So yes, let's go and find some comments here. So April says, creative shot. Peter says, lovely image. Max says, love this image, awesome. Diane says, very creative, have no idea how to get it though. Max says, well done, Nicola. Rosemary says, yay, Nicola, love that amazing landscape, so unusual, striking. And then on to Robert's. April says, oh yeah, Robert, I love this photo. Viji says, I actually thought it was, I actually thought first it was, and then she's got camera and shopping bag emojis. Peter says, nice. Maggie says, hooray, love the silence, Robert. And I think silence is the word, isn't it? You just, it absorbs you, just kind of, you feel like it wouldn't be making any sound, or just the quiet sound of a cool wind, a cold wind. Marie says, Robert, this image just captures the perfect concept of lonely, or captures the concept of lonely perfectly. Viji says, Robert, in India we would have a few hundred people walking in that space. Good to see such a vast amount of land. And Robert says, thank you again, mind the gap. And Max says, great image, Robert. Cool, right, okay, and then finally the last acknowledgements that I want to make in terms of photos are, of course, coming from Viji. Now, over the time, Viji has, like I say, it's been fantastic to see Viji's growth as a photographer, and every now and again, Viji has created a photo where I've just gone, wow. And one of the ones she did, which again we talked about just a couple of weeks ago in the Send Me Your Best Photo one, was this one of the leaf, which is the one where she first really it just felt like everything came together with this. I love the fact, in terms of compositional, that you've got the diagonals, you've got the use of light and dark, you've got the use of part of it being really sharp, you've got the bokeh, so it's sort of it's not so in focus, just in the fore and in the background. Beautiful soft colours, the dampness, again you can kind of smell dampness and the heat and the humidity. It's just a beautiful, beautiful photo. Then there was I remember the next time I was absolutely, really kind of blown away was this one from Viji. And it's so minimalist and simple, and it was put in for the minimalism challenge. and this little water pump, this little green rusting water pump against this really vivid, almost sort of yellow, turmeric kind of yellow wall, and you've got the texture in the wall, but you've just got that, I don't know, there's something so beautifully minimalism about this, and I absolutely adore this photo. And then, of course, because I clicked the wrong way, you just got a hint there of the one that I was going to talk about as well. Finally, I think my favourite photo of all of Viji's is this one here, when we were, which was for the book challenge. And the idea then that, I mean, we've seen over the months and years, Viji periodically, she likes to create little models and photograph the models. But here, creating a little person in the boat, and admissions out of, you know, for the seats on the boat, like you're getting a ticket to go away, triumphantly raising hands of the person. But then on the book itself, the book curved over, we've got a map, we've got a, you know, the map and the travel, and the idea that almost surfing on the wave. This and beautifully taken as well. The composition is lovely, the creativity is there. I just absolutely adore this photo. Again, it's the kind of thing, oh, if I'd come up with this, I would have felt so smug, so chuffed, so happy for doing something like this. And every time I look at this photo, it absolutely puts a smile on my face. So with that in mind, and the previous two photos, Viji, without a doubt, you have to have a serious Smug Award. No, not that one. And there we go. So those are the Smug Awards. That's really what I wanted to talk about, and offer up. So a couple of quick comments then. What else have we got here? So oh right, Viji said meant photoshopped. Oh right, so camera and bags. Camera, photo and shop. Okay, that was your emojis, Viji. Love that. April says nice, love the macro nature. Robert says, I have photo envy for this photo, Viji, and it's presumably the green one, the leaf. You've really developed a great eye. Peter says, well done, Viji. Pat says, well done, Viji. I want to touch the leaf. And then April says, Viji, yes, crazy. I remember all your photos. May Britt says, lovely photos, Viji. Rosemary says, I'm envious of the amount of improvement you've gained in 2 years. I love the pump against the yellow wall. It really sticks in my memory and encourages me to look differently at the mundane. Gary says, superb, Viji, very well done. Diane says, such imagination. Maggie says, hooray for your beautiful work, Viji. Love the yellow, so textured. Roy says, away to go, Viji. Robert says, just realised that is Middle Earth. Way to go. I don't think it is. I think it's just Europe, actually. Talking about the map in the background there. Rosemary says, so many heaps and heaps of smugs to everyone, and to Kim and the Ayres ladies. Have a wonderful week all. Yeah, so that's us then. That's congratulations to everyone who has turned up, taken part, and contributed to these podcasts over the last 2 years. As I said at the outset, I couldn't have done this without you. I wouldn't be doing this without you. The feedback, the interaction. When I started these podcasts 2 years ago, part of it was the fact that I'm a social person. I love I love meeting people. I love interacting with people. And suddenly we were in lockdown and I wasn't going to be able to meet people. And so starting the podcast was a way of sort of reaching out and connecting with people. And that's really developed. And that's really developed because of you who turn up each week, you who submit images for critique, you who put in images for challenges, and particularly you who turn up and comment and leave comments and give me these feedback and allow me to have this interaction here. Everything we do here is made up. We're just making it up as we go along. I do a bit of planning, we try and do things, but each week we connect, and we connect with each other through this screen, but we also connect with the others who are joining in the chat, joining in the Facebook group, sending in the images. I love this community of ours. I never believed it would have gone on for 2 years. Hopefully it will go on for a little while longer yet. So thank you to everyone who has turned up. And I hope you've enjoyed this little Smug Awards special. Next week, like I say, I've still yet to figure out exactly what it is I'm going to do for next week. But there will be a critique section involved. It's also might be sort of cobbled together slightly at the last minute, because tomorrow I'm heading off to see my dad for a couple of days, and then we get back, and then there's more things getting in the way. So, but hey, what will be new? Last few comments here. Viji says, thank you everyone. Kim, I honestly owe you a lot. You're a great teacher. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. But you're also an amazing student, Viji. Diane says, it's Easter week, so we'll be away at our sons. Happy Easter to all. Anne says, what a fun episode. I'm glad you thought so. Maggie says, thank you so much to everyone for all your support for Kim and his wonderful desire to build a community. It's very special. Yeah, Maggie appreciates you all too. Meg says, Dad, your confidence is fantastic throughout these podcasts. Well done. Thank you, sweetie. April says, congrats to everyone. All have a great week. Mayberry says, Smug Award to you, Kim, for the podcast. Well, hey, I'm just a walking smug person. That's the... and happy Easter to everyone. And Mel says, thank you to Kim and everyone. I hope to be able to join again. I hope you get the time to as well, Mel. So yes, next week then is Easter weekend, but I will still be doing this. So I hope as many of you as possible can turn up to that. And meanwhile, don't forget to join us in the Facebook group, Understanding Photography with Kim Ayres. Just go to Facebook, type that in, and you will find us if you haven't done so already. Take care and happy Smug Awards. Do feel smug. Allow yourself that smug feeling for the rest of the day. Cheerio.